We had a very interesting discussion that you participated in, and Chancellor Plowman and Chad Holliday, and the then soon-to-be retired director of Oak Ridge, Thomas Zachariah, and it was called Spotlight Tennessee. And coming out of that, you all really helped us in our thinking to come up with this whole concept of competitiveness conversations across the country. And so I want to thank you and Donde and others for having faith and saying you'll be the first ones to do it. So I want to announce that we will be in Nashville April 25th.
Yeah.
And then all day on the 26th, hopefully have the governor and political leaders as well, very much bipartisan. So let me turn to you. I mean, you have come from University of Chicago and a great, great institution, and now at Vanderbilt. So share with us a little bit about your vision for what's going on in the state that's making your integration of an innovation future so dynamic, because you're really connecting the dots.
First of all, thank you for having me. And we're delighted to be pioneering the conversations. And we all invited to Nashville. Nashville is a great place to be, especially in April. So we'll try to make it a really inspiring and engaging event. So there's a lot to say on that. The first thing that I would say is, which is obvious but still I think needs to be emphasized, is that I think we're seeing a significant shift of economic activity from different regions of the country to new regions. So we certainly see this in Nashville. We see it in all other parts of what used to be called the Sun Belt. I'm not quite sure we have a great name for that. We heard previously about what's going on in Phoenix as well. But you kind of start in Phoenix, you go all the way down to Miami. There's a tremendous amount of dynamism now. And Bloomberg had a piece in the summer, I think, where they looked at the GDP in Texas, Tennessee, the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida. And for the first time, the GDP was larger than in the Northeast. First time in American history. So there's a lot of tailwind of what's going on right now. And we see a tremendous amount of people relocating, certainly to Nashville, but other parts of the state as well, Chattanooga, Knoxville, and so forth. And it's people, it's capital, it's businesses. There is this move of people from the coast, from the north, towards this part of the country. So there's one way to think about it. It's like, well, why is that? Well, it's a business-friendly climate. We've had lots of collaboration between civic leaders, between mayors and governors for a long time. And of course, many of them have been active in this forum. So there has been a decade-long focus on attracting business to the state, starting, or most dramatically, probably if we think about the car industry from Japan, and then following by battery makers from Korea, but also Ford, Blue Oval. That's an important investment there. Volkswagen is expanding their presence. So this magnet towards businesses relocating to Tennessee has been, I think, a part of the strategic intent of the state leadership and of the municipal leadership for a very long time. But I don't think that's enough at this point, or at least let me put it this way. I think the opportunity is much bigger. And the opportunity is, I think, goes beyond a business-friendly climate and assets that are particularly helpful in manufacturing. That's a skilled workforce. We talked about the TVA before, so we are reliant and resilient and inexpensive energy compared to others. So they're kind of the fundamentals, if you will. What I think where we need to do a lot more is what I would call kind of PhD level or science-driven innovation. And just to one example, Nashville is the capital of healthcare management in the country. I mean, that's like about 1/5 of the economy. But a lot of that is healthcare management. So it has to deal with billing processes, the business of healthcare, if you will. And then on the car side, again, to just pick one industry, it's all manufacturing. Manufacturing is going great. It has a sustained and sustainable competitive advantage. But what we don't have is an innovation culture that I'm going to call deep tech or PhD level innovation. there's not that much or not enough there from my point of view. So that's, of course, where universities naturally fit in. That's where we want to play a role. So our question is now, with partners in the state, where do we have a right to win? Where do we have a right to win within Nashville? That's, of course, my backyard. Also with respect to Tennessee. And there, one of the key aspects to that, and one of the key candidates for whether is really future of mobility.
And Tennessee's getting the moniker of being the battery belt country. And interestingly, in Birmingham, in the UK, the old industrial heartland, they have a very sophisticated strategy, and a number of them have already said, are we allowed to come to the Tennessee meeting?
Yes.
So you'll have to say
Yeah.
yes.
The answer is yes.
But, bringing in Oak Ridge is very powerful, too. I mean,
Absolutely.
a totally different part of the state. Oak Ridge playing a critical role in Y-12 and then so many areas in advanced materials. So that is a deep science
Absolutely.
nodule there, and integrating that is very exciting. And then, of course, we hope that Bill Hargrave, our member from University of Memphis, another very interesting dynamic with FedEx, but a lot of social problems. So it's a complexity that this dialogue or conversation will address. I really love it if you'd be willing to share a little bit about this incredible, don't name everybody, but you've put together an incredible steering committee of leaders, and we're going to have our first call next week. Yeah. And I think it will give others insight into kind of the people that need to be involved in order to move these things forward.
Yeah, let me just give you one example for how we're thinking about the collaboration there. And it's conceptually, Tennessee has a little over 7 million people, around 7 million people. When I look at that, that's like a small Scandinavian country. Like we're bigger than Denmark and smaller than Sweden. And I think that this is like that. What that means is that everybody knows each other. It's easy to work together, but when we work together, we can harness the capabilities that a state can bring to the forefront. And I think this is something, thinking about at a state level, is something that we're not so accustomed to in the United States. I think we have a tendency to focus on clusters, which are by municipality or locally, and then we think nationally, but the states can do a lot on that, and I think this is something that we're particularly excited about. And the second point that we're just making is the collaboration, and the steering committee has former senators, but it also has current CEOs in there, and we're very, very keen on deepening that collaboration. So I'll give you just one example so that you can see it a little bit. Vanderbilt is one of the leaders at think about it, kind of connected computing and connected cars. So if you think about that, where cars get towards is they're basically iPhone on wheels, and then the iPhones can talk to each other, and that opens all sorts of opportunities to think about traffic in a very interesting way. So we have a phenomenal team of researchers that are interested in the question of how do you get phantom traffic jams to disappear. So these traffic jams that occur even though there's no cause. And there are mathematical models on that, and then they could demonstrate how these things disappear once you have kind of like a pacer car that drives at the average of all the other cars, because there's these complicated waves that create these traffic jams. And then I said, well, that's nice. Let's try to do this in the real world. So we have now a test bed on I-24. It's a 10-mile-long test bed, biggest real test bed in the world, where we were able to do a controlled experiment to put this theory into motion, into ideas. How do we have these kind of controlling cars that slow down the emergence of these waves that create traffic jams? But we needed university partners, so we had a whole consortium of some of the leading universities working on that, led by Vanderbilt in this particular case. We needed the collaboration of the Tennessee Department of Transportation. We needed to have all sorts of permits and ability to do that, funding to put sensors up there so that we can actually track the vehicles. Well, then we needed cars. So that was also important. So we had started building a deep partnership with Nissan about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and they gave us 100 cars and allowed us to mess with their software, which was pretty remarkable. And so it could not have happened unless you put together university, the government, and private entities. And now we have this amazing test bed that can be used for all sorts of traffic modeling, moving forward. So that's how we think about it, is that we want to create this partnership in a deep way, not just, not in a sequential way. So you're saying like, well, first we get the funding and then we do this and this, but to bring all of them together in an integrated fashion that we can advance knowledge and impact, social impact in a way that no institution could do on its own. Oak Ridge hasn't been part of that project, but we're working on something else with them to make sure that that's part of it as well.
And you also, of course, have access to Oak Ridge's incredible next generation exascale computer that also enables AI applications.
Exactly.
So that's very exciting as well. I want to ask you two things before our time runs up. So the first one is, and I was very excited when you explained this to me in some depth, while Fort Campbell is in Kentucky, it's really also part of Tennessee.
That's a whole contested issue. We think it's in Tennessee, even though the post office is in Kentucky. So at any rate, a sore spot for us.
That's a very incredible part of our defense and Army infrastructure.
Yes.
So I know you're going to involve the commanding officer.
Yes.
That's exciting.
So I'll give you a little background on that. So we went to Fort Campbell about 2 years ago, and we realized many things were eye-opening. First of all, great source of talent for us. There are about 4,500 veterans leaving Fort Campbell every year. They're a wonderful source of talent for us, but you need to work on that to make sure you get access to the talent. By the way, the whole discussion on talent, veterans, phenomenal source of talent. But it doesn't happen by itself. It really needs work to be veterans ready. And then the second thing that we were engaged in was really innovation. Now that's not the Lockheed Martin type innovation, where you have like supersonic planes or anything like that. We wanted to do something else. We wanted to work innovation work that was soldier-driven. So we're working directly. We basically set up, if you will, a design lab collaboration with people from the 101st Airborne, 160th, 5th Special Forces to work with the problems that they have. So kind of apply, if you will, engineering and design thinking. So then the first great project that came out of that is an exoskeleton that you put on, and it is basically like a little harness that creates additional support for your back on command with smart materials, which reduces back injuries. So we worked with this, and because they're so close, our faculty could go there, you try it on, does it work, does it not work? Now we have a prototype that's spun out in a startup company called HeroWare, and we're having a whole variety of projects like that. So that's another partnership, just like we would have with Nissan. We just announced a new partnership with Bridgestone, which is also based in Nashville. So we love to have these deep collaborations that look at multiple different ways in which we can work together.
That's very, very exciting. And of course, we're going to be in Nashville. Vanderbilt, yes, but also it's the state capital. And I think you're the only state capital where the building's actually a pretty exact replica of the Parthenon. But here's what I have to ask you.
Very important for us, yes.
Everybody, you better get these dates on your calendar. So you have promised that we're going to have a performance from Taylor Swift, right?
We're in negotiations. Let me put it this way, okay? We're in negotiations.
Well, I think all of us that have children and granddaughters or whatever, we listen to
But
the
even
music
if Taylor
all the time.
Swift's not available, we have lots of great music. So
I know.
So
And
you
that's
will
gonna
not be
fun, too.
disappointed.
That's going to be fun, too. Thank you so
Thank
much
you so
for
much,
your
Deb. Thank you.
leadership, and we'll look forward to coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks.